"You'll die alone anyway, you old hag." Those were the last words my daughter-in-law, Jessica, ever said to me. One minute, I was supposed to be celebrating my 71st birthday with my family. The next, I was walking out of my son's house forever. I got in my car and just started driving to my old lake house with nothing but my handbag and her words ringing in my ears. As my phone exploded with calls and texts, I didn't feel sad. I felt free. But for you to understand why I ignored 61 missed calls from my son, Robert, you have to understand the years of quiet cuts that led to this one final wound. It really all started 2 years ago, the day my husband, Harold, passed away. We'd been married for nearly 50 years, and his loss left a hole in my life that felt impossible to fill. Our family home, once bustling with the laughter of our 2 boys, suddenly felt cavernous and cold. After a year of rattling around in the silence, I made the tough choice to sell it. It was just too big for one person, and the memories, while beautiful, were a constant, painful reminder of what I'd lost. I moved into a small, sensible apartment, thinking it was the practical thing to do. I believed it would make things easier for my kids, that I wouldn't be a burden. I was so wrong. My son, Robert, had married Jessica about 5 years before Harold died. From the beginning, Jessica was particular. She had this way of smiling while delivering a subtle jab that always left you feeling a little off balance. In the early days, I brushed it off. I told myself she was just nervous or had a different communication style. I was determined to love the woman my son loved. Harold used to say she was like a fancy, high-strung cat. You had to approach her carefully and on her terms. He saw it long before I did. After Harold was gone and I downsized my life, Jessica's quiet manipulations ramped up. It felt like a slow, methodical campaign to isolate me, so subtle that if I ever tried to point it out, I'd sound like a crazy, paranoid old woman. It started with small things. She'd forget to tell me about a school play for my grandson, Timothy, until it was too late. When I'd see pictures later, my heart would just ache. She'd say, "Oh, Carol, I'm so sorry, it completely slipped my mind. Things were just so chaotic." But then it happened again. And again. Grandparents' Day, soccer games, birthday parties. I was slowly, methodically being erased from my grandson's life. Then came the comments about my parenting, my cooking, my life. They were always wrapped in fake concern. "Carol, are you sure you should be eating that much sodium? We want you around for a long time," she'd say, eyeing the soup I'd made from a recipe Harold and I had loved. Or, "I just worry about you in that apartment, all alone. It's so quiet." She planted seeds of doubt in Robert's mind, painting me as fragile and incompetent. She'd twist my words, turning a simple request to see Timothy into some demanding imposition. I'd call Robert, and she would often answer his phone, explaining that he was just too exhausted to talk, painting a picture of a man run ragged by his demanding mother. Robert, my sweet, gentle boy, was caught in her web. He loved his wife, and he loved me, but he hates conflict more than anything. Jessica was an expert at framing her cruelty as my oversensitivity. If I mentioned I was hurt about a missed event, she'd tell Robert, "Your mother is just so dramatic. She always makes everything about her." Soon, Robert's calls became less frequent. Our conversations grew shorter, more strained. He'd tell me to talk to Jessica to make plans, knowing full well that Jessica was the gatekeeper who never opened the gate. He was just choosing the path of least resistance, and that path was leading him further and further away from me. I tried to hold on to our traditions. Birthdays were always sacred in our family. Harold had made a huge deal of them, and I was desperate to keep that spirit alive. For my 70th, my first one without him, I had hoped for a simple family dinner. Jessica insisted they were just too swamped. Instead, they sent a generic gift basket from a fruit company. It felt like a corporate thank you, not a message from my son. I spent the day alone, eating a slice of grocery store cake, trying not to cry. That's when I felt the true depth of my isolation, the feeling that I had become an obligation to be managed, not a mother to be cherished. Over the next year, I poured my energy and a good chunk of Harold's life insurance into a secret project. I found a small, forgotten house on a lake about 2 hours away, a place Harold and I had always dreamed of buying. It was dilapidated, neglected, but it had good bones and a view that stole your breath away. I bought it and started the slow process of bringing it back to life. I hired local contractors and spent weekends there, painting walls, choosing furniture, and planting a garden. It was my sanctuary. A place that was wholly mine, where I wasn't a burden or an afterthought. I didn't tell Robert or Jessica. I told myself I was saving it as a family surprise. But deep down, I think I knew I was building a lifeboat. I was just waiting for the ship to finally go down. Which brings me to my 71st birthday. I'd learned my lesson from the year before. I wasn't going to wait for an invitation that would never come. A week before the day, I called the house, hoping to catch Robert. "Of course," Jessica answered. "Hi Jessica, it's Carol. Is Robert around?" I asked, keeping my voice cheerful, trying to hide the anxiety knotting my stomach. "He's busy, Carol. What's up?" Her tone was clipped. Impatient. I took a breath. "Oh well, my birthday is next Tuesday, and I was hoping we could all get together? Even just a quick dinner, whatever's easiest. I'd just love to see you and Robert and Timothy." A long, heavy silence. I could hear her exhale, a sound of pure annoyance. "Carol, honestly," she began, her voice dripping with condescension, "we are just so tired of your constant need for attention. Robert and Timothy are my family now. You're just an obligation." The words hit me like a physical blow. Obligation. It was the word I feared most, and she wielded it like a knife. My voice was barely a whisper. "Jessica, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I wanted to see my son and grandson for my birthday." That's when her voice turned sharp, venomous. "Save your drama," she snapped. "The sooner you accept you're just going to be alone, the better off we'll all be." She paused, and for a split second, I thought she might backtrack. But instead, she delivered the final blow. "You'll die alone anyway, you old hag." Click. The line went dead. I just sat there in the silence of my too-quiet apartment, the phone still pressed to my ear. An old hag. The words echoed in the emptiness, stripping away the last shreds of my dignity, my hope, my place in the family I had built. The shock was so complete it was like being plunged into ice water. There were no tears. Not yet. Just a sudden, chilling clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a personality clash. This was pure hatred. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Or maybe, it was finally pieced back together. The years of swallowing her little cruelties, of making excuses, of shrinking myself to make her feel bigger, it was over. The lifeboat was ready, and the storm had finally hit. I didn't move for a solid 10 minutes. The phone lay dark in my lap. Then it lit up. A text from Robert. "Mom, Jessica said you called. Is everything okay? Is everything okay?" The question was so absurd I almost laughed. Before I could even think of how to respond, my phone buzzed again. A notification from the family group chat. Jessica had already made her move. "Jessica, just a heads up, everyone. I just had a very unpleasant call with Carol. She's getting really dramatic about her birthday and is trying to lay a massive guilt trip on us. Please just ignore her if she reaches out. We're not engaging with the theatrics." My blood ran cold. The preemptive strike. Playing the victim. It was her signature. My sister-in-law, Harold's sister Martha, replied first. "Martha, what are you talking about, Jessica? She just wants to see her family. What is wrong with that? Jessica, you don't understand the pressure we're under. She's becoming very demanding in her old age." That did it. I looked at the phone, at the neat little box of lies she had built, and I refused to live inside it for one more second. I opened my social media page, which I rarely used. I found the best picture I had of the lake house, the afternoon sun hitting the new deck, the water sparkling behind it. My fingers flew as I typed a caption. Decided to get a head start on my birthday. Sometimes you have to be your own best company. Off to my happy place to celebrate 71 years. Feeling so blessed and at peace. My celebration, my rules. I hit post. Then I stood up, walked to my closet, and packed an overnight bag. Handbag, medication, a change of clothes, a good book. As I walked out of my apartment, my phone started ringing. Robert. I ignored it. It rang again. I ignored it. By the time I got to my car, it was buzzing with an absolute fury. Texts, missed calls, group chat notifications. The family chat had exploded. My post had landed like a bomb. Robert. What lake house? Mom, what is this? Where are you going? Jessica. See? Theatrics. This is exactly what I was talking about. She's doing this for attention. Martha. Good for you, Carol. Go enjoy yourself. It looks beautiful. Jessica. You're enabling her, Martha. This is manipulative behavior. I put the phone on silent and face down on the passenger seat. I started the car and pulled out of the parking garage without a single look back. For the entire 2-hour drive, the screen lit up relentlessly. Calls from Robert. Angry texts from Jessica. Confused texts from other family members. By the time I pulled onto the gravel road to my house, the screen showed 61 missed calls from my son. I didn't feel a pang of guilt. I just felt the quiet, thrilling hum of freedom. Before I tell you what happened when I finally arrived at that quiet lake house and the peace I began to build there, I want to hear from you. Have you ever reached a breaking point where walking away was the only option for your own sanity? Let me know your story in the comments below. And if you believe in the power of choosing yourself, make sure you subscribe for more stories about finding strength when it matters most. The moment my car crunched to a halt on the gravel, I took my first real breath of the day. The air here was different, clean, smelling of pine and damp earth. I got out, leaving the furiously blinking phone in the car. The setting sun cast a golden glow across the water, and the only sound was the gentle lapping of waves and the distant call of a loon. It was the sound of peace. Walking into the house felt like coming home in a way my sterile apartment never had. Inside, it smelled of fresh paint and wood. I'd furnished it simply, with comfortable, sturdy pieces that reminded me of the life Harold and I had built. There were no ghosts here. Only potential. My quiet revenge wasn't some grand plot. It was simply my absence. It was the silence they received in response to their chaos. I turned my phone off completely. The endless buzzing stopped, and the quiet that replaced it was bliss. For my 71st birthday, I didn't have a party. I poured a glass of good red wine, made a simple plate of cheese and crackers, and sat on the deck, wrapped in a thick blanket as the stars came out. I wasn't the lonely old hag my daughter-in-law had described. I was a woman enjoying the fruits of her own labor, in a home she built for herself, on her own terms. It was the happiest birthday I'd had in years. The next morning, morbid curiosity won, and I turned the phone back on. The barrage of messages was overwhelming. Robert's texts had shifted from confusion to anger, then to panicked pleading. Mom, please answer me. I'm worried. This is insane, Mom. You're acting like a child. Fine, have it your way. Ruin your own birthday. And then hours later. Mom, please. Just tell me you're safe. I'm sorry. Just please call me. Jessica's messages were pure venom, accusing me of trying to turn Robert against her and deliberately humiliating her. The fact that my simple post about finding peace had embarrassed her spoke volumes. I ignored them all and called the one person I knew would get it, Martha. Carol. I saw your post. Where are you? Are you all right? She asked, her voice filled with real concern. I told her everything. The phone call, the old hag comment, the years of little digs that led up to it. I even confessed that part of me felt guilty for ignoring my son. Martha's response was swift and fierce. "Don't you dare feel guilty, Carol Peterson," she said sharply. "That woman is cruel. What she said isn't just family squabbling. It's emotional abuse. And Robert, bless his heart, is a coward for letting it happen. You did the right thing. You chose yourself. Harold would be so damn proud of you right now." Hearing that from her felt like a weight lifting off my chest. Martha's words were the permission slip I didn't know I needed. For the next week, I lived in a bubble of peace. I worked in my garden, read books on the deck, and took long walks by the lake. I found a local diner and made small talk with the waitress. I was rediscovering Carol, the woman who existed outside the roles of wife, mother, and problematic mother-in-law. About a month into my new, quiet life, the other shoe dropped. It came as a certified letter. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was from a lawyer. Robert and Jessica were petitioning for a wellness check and temporary conservatorship. They claimed my erratic behavior, buying a home in secret, and cutting off communication were signs of mental decline. They wanted to take control of my finances. Of me. But then, support came from the last person I expected. A few days later, a strange car pulled into my driveway. A woman got out, looking hesitant and upset. It was Jessica's sister, Nancy. I'd only met her a handful of times. I opened the door, my guard up. "Nancy, what are you doing here?" Tears were already in her eyes. "Carol, I am so sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "I had to come. Jessica, she's out of control. And Robert just goes along with it." She told me that Jessica had been furious after the birthday incident, and her anger just spiraled when she found out I had my own property, my own independence. The legal filing was a desperate, last-ditch effort to regain control. Nancy also said their home life was now chaos. Without me as a scapegoat, all of Jessica's toxicity was aimed squarely at Robert. They were fighting constantly. "She called me," Nancy confessed, "ranting about how you were making unreasonable demands. But I've seen how she is, Carol. I've seen how she controls everything." "She called you an old hag, didn't she?" I just nodded, my throat tight. "I knew it," Nancy sighed. "My sister can be a monster when she doesn't get her way. I just wanted you to know that not everyone thinks you're the villain. You're better off away from it all." Her visit confirmed it. The toxicity wasn't in my head. It was real, and it was consuming them now that I was no longer there to absorb it. The final confrontation happened a week later. Not in a lawyer's office, but on my own deck. Robert showed up, unannounced. He looked awful, exhausted, pale, and years older. "Mom," he said, his voice small. "We need to talk." I gestured to a chair but remained standing, keeping a bit of space between us. The lawyer. "Mom, we can drop all that. We just want you to come home," he pleaded. "Jessica, she's sorry. We miss you. Timothy misses you." I looked him straight in the eye. "What is Jessica sorry for, Robert? Is she sorry for cutting me out of my grandson's life? 4 years of disrespect? Or is she just sorry she got caught and lost her free childcare?" He flinched. "She didn't say exactly." "No, she didn't," I said, my voice calm but hard as steel. "Let me ask you, Robert. When your wife called me an old hag and told me I would die alone, was that hurtful?" He couldn't meet my gaze. "She told me she was just a little sharp with you." "She told you that, and you believed her? Or you chose to believe her because it was easier?" I stated, not as a question but a fact. "I need you to stop asking Jessica's permission to love me, Robert. I need you to remember that I'm your mother, not some problem to be managed." Tears welled in his eyes. "What do you want from me, Mom?" I looked out at the peaceful water, at the life I had built from the ashes of the one they'd burned down. My answer was simple and absolute. "Nothing," I said. I don't want anything from you anymore, Robert. The price of being in your life is my dignity, and I am no longer willing to pay it. This lake house isn't a weapon. It's my home. And my peace here is not negotiable. You need to leave. He stood there for a long moment, a broken man on my doorstep. Then, he turned and walked away. I didn't watch him go. It's been a year since that day. The legal threat just faded away, collapsing under its own baselessness. I haven't spoken to Robert or Jessica since. Being estranged from my son is a scar on my heart that will probably never heal, and I mourn the loss of my grandson every single day. But I don't regret my decision. I'm not the woman who sat in a sterile apartment, waiting for the phone to ring. I'm the woman who lives by the lake. My friend Martha visits often. I've joined a book club and a gardening group in town. I've made new friends who value my company and my stories, people who are becoming my new, chosen family. I'm living my life, finally on my own terms. Sometimes, true strength isn't about fighting every battle. It's about knowing which battles aren't yours to fight and having the courage to walk away from a war you were never meant to win. I was told I would die alone. Maybe I will. But I will not die disrespected, I will not die invisible, and I will not die as a guest in my own life. I will die in my own home, surrounded by the peace I fought so hard to find. And that is not a lonely end. It's a victory.